Hi everyone, it's Don and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Well, let me tell you, if I was on this cruise, I would be livid. I would be freaking out. I would be as angry as you've ever seen me before. Let me tell you a story about a couple, Justin and Jess, who just started their travel adventures after quitting their corporate jobs, and they went on a once-in-a-lifetime, dream of a lifetime Antarctic cruise. And wait till you hear all the things that happened. Today's video is brought to you by private internet access. So guys, even when you're out on a place like this, you're on a beach and there's nobody around you, it seems, for miles as well, there are still people who can be sitting in their car just up along the road, and they could be looking to steal your information. It's just covered with hotels all the way down the strip, which means it's an easy target for people to set up a LAN and look for your information. But if you do like I do and you have a VPN, private internet access, it hides your IP address. They can't tell what you're doing. They can't tell what information you're trying to access, and they can't steal your personal information. Makes it almost impossible. Now, why did I choose private internet access? Well, for one thing, they let me do not one, not 5, not 10, but unlimited devices under the exact same plan. And they have a no log policy, which means they're not storing any of my personal information. And that's been proven in court by a third-party audit. So even in a remote place like this, you can still have your information hacked if you tried to access your personal information. You should always have a VPN. And if you'd like to try private internet access, why not follow my link down below, and you get up to 83% off your subscription and up to 4 months free. Thanks again to Private Internet Access for sponsoring this video and keeping my information safe. So a couple was doing one of those bucket list cruises, one of those possibly once in a lifetime cruises, cruising 16 days on an expedition cruise ship to Antarctica. And that is a bucket list for a lot of people. First of all, a lot of people want to say, if you're a big traveler and you're traveling around the world, that's the 7th continent, right? That could be the final continent that you step on in your lifetime. And you can say, I stepped on all 7 continents and I finally fulfilled this lifelong dream of traveling. Well, a couple named Justin and Jess, I'll leave a link to this video down below. They're YouTubers. They usually do driving. They have a camper trailer. They do Airbnb kind of trips and everything, but they spent their money on this dream of a lifetime, luxury cruise line to Antarctica. And it started off a little bit on the wrong foot. Now, this cost them $26,000 US just for the cruise. That doesn't count having to fly all the way down to Buenos Aires to get onto the ship, 2 days of flights, how expensive those are, the hotels there. This is just the cruise. And as they're getting ready to set sail, bam, the first problem arises. They are told right away as they step foot on the ship that the itinerary is now changed. And they're doing it now in reverse order. So their original plan and their original schedule was 4 days in Antarctica Peninsula, 3 days in South Georgia, and 1 day in the Falkland Islands. And then the rest of the days, of course, are sea days. Well, they reverse course, and now instead of getting 4 days in Antarctica, they say they're only going to get 3 days in the Antarctic Peninsula. And then they're going to add 1 more day in the Falkland Islands. I don't know about you, but I don't take an Antarctica cruise for the Falkland Islands. I take it for South Georgia, where all the wildlife is, the penguins, the sea lions, etc., and the whales, and of course, the Antarctica. That's where I want to spend my time, in Antarctica. That's why I'm paying this exorbitant amount of money to get down there. But they changed the itinerary completely. Now, as a coincidence, this is with Atlas Cruise Lines, and Atlas had a second ship of the exact same size in the same port they're leaving from, and it left to Antarctica, doing the exact basic same itinerary. So that cruise ship left on the normal time, and they headed off in the other directions. Well, they got down to South Georgia, And the next problem arose, where they were brought to shore and everything, and they were trying to get around. And it turns out they were only allowed on shore about 45 minutes. 45 minutes! That's hardly enough time to step foot on the land and look for a bathroom, let alone, try and get around and see some wildlife and take pictures and experience it. And normally on these cruises, it can be anywhere from 2 to 3 hours each Zodiac trip. And this one was 45 minutes, so like a third, or 25%. Like, really kind of crazy. Now, remember, Antarctica is a little different. They are governed down there. There are only certain landing sites that you're allowed to go to. You have to schedule them in advance because it's all wildlife protected, etc. They don't want contaminants to come. There's really, really strict, environmental aspects of this trip. And in order to go to a certain landing spot, you have to book that. And now they've changed the itinerary. So does that mean they don't have those landing spots anymore? Because they're not arriving on the days they said they were going to arrive. So what happens now? Well, when they're traveling through Antarctic waters, they're only allowed to go a maximum of 10 knots, which is around 11.5 miles per hour. And so you have to go at a certain speed, which means you can't just pick up speed to get to a different landing site that's available. And here's where we come into another problem. As they're heading to Antarctica, the expedition team starts saying, oh, by the way, the minute we go by the 60th parallel, southern parallel, technically now you're in Antarctica. But we're still at sea. Yeah, but technically you're in Antarctica. Anything past that is Antarctica. So you're in Antarctica now. Not only that, about a week before they set sail, the cruise line changed the wording on their cruise. Instead of saying 3 days in the peninsula, Antarctic Peninsula, it now is changed to exploring Antarctica. That's pretty funny. A week before. So did they know before the passengers stepped foot on the ship they were changing all this stuff around? And they're not going to get the experience that they paid $26,000. Other passengers paid well over $40,000 for this. It all depends on your cabin type that you're in as well, right? So can you imagine, a week before if they would have told you, oh, by the way, we're not really going to Antarctica. We're just going to go and sail around the islands on the outskirts. You would be pretty upset, right? Well, day one in Antarctica. What they claim Antarctica, they were sailing by a little island called Elephant Island, which is a pretty barren, just block of rock and ice. Not really spectacular. It's pretty, it's different, but it's not what you're going to Antarctica for. It's not anything there, but lo and behold, day one of being in Antarctica, they did nothing. They didn't do any Zodiac trips, they did not land a boat, they did not head out at all. Then on day two, they were at Penguin Island, and they were supposed to do Zodiac trips, they were supposed to do other, land on shore, and the expedition director, he canceled it all because, the weather is too rough. The weather is too bad. And as he's saying this, people are looking out the window of the cruise ship, and they see another cruise ship docked just around, just over there, and they're running Zodiac tours back and forth to Penguin Island, while they're saying it's too rough for them to do it. The other ship is doing it. How would you feel? Wouldn't you be livid? Wouldn't you be going, what the heck is going on? Oh, it's too rough. It's too rough a weather. But you see other people on a ship right beside you, like 200 yards away, doing what you're supposed to be doing and what you paid all that money for. I would be livid. And I would be streaming live from that cruise ship if I was on there going, if possible, right? We're in Antarctica, remember. So yeah, it seemed like every time that something was going on, they always tried to blame the weather, no matter what. You know, that's why they were changing the original itinerary. Weather. Then, just before going into day 3, the captain announces that everybody needs to go to the auditorium for an emergency meeting, which of course everyone knew was going to be bad news. They're not calling it an emergency meeting to say, hey, everything's wonderful, everybody. And they said, well, because of the bad weather, where they were going to land in the peninsula. Remember, this would be the only day actually going to the peninsula of Antarctica on a 4-day original scheduled trip. Well, instead they were going to turn around. In fact, they've already turned around and headed to Argentina. And people were going, "What? Wait a minute, why? What's going on? What?" You know, and people started checking the weather and everything. And finally, they pressed the captain so much to say, why are we turning? Can we not at least sail by Antarctica so we can actually see the peninsula? You know, what we paid to sea for? Is it really that rough in there? He said, well, it's not really rough in there. It's just we wouldn't be able to land. So I thought you would like to spend an extra day in Argentina instead. And everyone said, wait. We didn't pay an Antarctica cruise to spend in Argentina. And so finally, the captain said, you know, if everyone wants, we'll turn around and we'll see what we can do. And everyone said, yes, turn the ship around. And they turned the ship around and headed into the peninsula. Now remember, he had already turned the ship around and was heading in the other direction. What did this mean? Well, it meant you couldn't hit a landing site. He was too far away from any landing site by the time they got to the peninsula. And how bad was the weather in the peninsula? It was calm as ice. The water was smooth. It was pristine. There was no wind. And they were even able to launch Zodiacs and go out on a tour. And as they were out on the tour, that lasted about 40 minutes or so. And the captain came on and he called everybody back. All the Zodiacs had to come back because we had to leave right away or we might not make it back to Argentina in time for disembarkation, etc. and the rough seas. Well, they actually arrived in Argentina, a day early. So there really was no rush to get back. There really was no adverse weather. Even on the Drake Passage, there was no rough weather on their way to leave. There was no rough weather scheduled to arrive during that time. And even something as simple that this cruise line was advertising was like a polar plunge. You know, even on apparently they're advertising their get your bathing suit, go for the polar plunge in Antarctica, and people were actually looking forward to this, and they couldn't even organize that during this time that they were there. Wow. So not only did they, now this couple said there were 4 reasons that they wanted to go to Antarctica, 4 things they wanted to do. 1, they wanted to go to South Georgia. 2, they wanted to camp on shore, Antarctica. They wanted to kayak in Antarctica. And they wanted to land on the continent of Antarctica. So out of those 4 things, well, they got to South Georgia. It was cut short by 75%, but they got there. And then no camp, no kayak, no landing, and it was all on the itinerary. How angry would you be? I would be livid because this cruise would have cost me as a solo cruiser $26,000 US. I don't know about you. That's a car. And so a lot of people save years and years and years to go on this kind of trip. And to have it change completely and have them keep trying to blame weather when it turned out it wasn't weather. And that cruise ship that left at the same time and did the itinerary and not the changed itinerary, well, by accident, the cruise line sent the couple pictures of the cruise. Hope you're enjoying the cruise, but it was the other cruise ship. And they were on land, and they were camping, and they were in the peninsula. And they did everything on the itinerary, and everyone looked like they were having a great time. Meanwhile, on their trip, nothing happened right. Basically, they spent $26,000 for a sail by. And as I was reading some of the comments on the video, it literally was, you know, that's like driving from New York to California to go to Disneyland and driving around the parking lot and then heading home. Yet still paying all the prices for staying at Disneyland. And I am shaking my head. I think this was a horrible, horrible trip. I think the cruise line knew ahead of time they were going to change the schedule. And once they changed the schedule, I think they knew that they were not going to be able to make the landing sites because you can only go at a certain speed. You have to book them so far in advance. And there's not just, oh, by the way, that landing site's open and that landing site's open. No, you cannot have more cruise ships at those landing sites than they're allowing. You can't just pop in. It's not done. And even on the third day when they got to the peninsula, because they had already left for Argentina and then turned around because they can only go a certain speed, there was no way to actually get to a spot to have a landing site. Had he kept going and not turned the ship around, they might have been able to do it. So not sure what was going on, but I was like, they show in this video the meetings that they're having and things like that and the explanations, and the captain and the itinerary, you know, expedition director kept getting caught with their own mouths, kept on saying, well, it's weather, it was weather, and when people pushed them on it saying this happened and they're going, well, it was actually not us, it's corporate. Corporate made the decision, you're gonna have to take it up with them. Yet you're lying to them right there in their face. So I still blame the captain on this trip. So yeah, I'll leave a link down below to their video, and I don't know, what would you guys do? I know I would be livid, and there'd probably be about 20 videos on my channel about this, because I think this was a shame, an absolute shame, and very, very close to, you know, scamming their passengers. Remember, going to Antarctica, not everybody does it more than once. Many people, this is a bucket list, a once in a lifetime, it's expensive, they go one time. And to have this turned around like that and kept saying, weather, it's this, it's that, and cutting things short, and meanwhile, once they get there, everything's fine. Oh, we can't get off the ship because the weather's really bad, yet there's another ship right beside us doing it. You can see the Zodiacs, they're doing it, why can't we? Man, this absolutely seems like a catastrophe, and let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. You know, you can offer a 25% future cruise credit to these passengers if you want. How many of them are actually going to be able to get back to Antarctica again and spend 75% of $26,000 to $40,000 just to maybe have this happen all over again? Well, I hope you appreciate this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Want to see more tips, more tricks, more travel blogs from around the world? Hit that subscribe button. Until next time, have yourself a safe and a great vacation.